Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Untitled Reviews, this being a show where it's about dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Kevin Can F Himself. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, Allison's having nightmares about Nick, and she needed to make sure that Nick was still unconscious, and so she still hasn't been able to get in touch with her PI because it's like, well, he is trying to avoid, he's staying super low because, Chuck is probably after him from helping Diane disappear. But, and I guess, like, he's kind of like, he's probably never had to deal with such an annoying client, so he probably, like, doesn't want to, like, talk to Allison, because, like, the moment Patty calls him later on, she's able to get in touch with him, but Allison wasn't able to, and I love that. It's like, oh, he likes you, you charmer, you. But Allison, I think it's such an interesting thing that Allison kind of wanted to overcompensate for the fact is that it's like, right, she relies on Patty so much, and she's like, I've done this, and she's like, yeah, that time I helped. She's like, yes, and that's all you've ever done. Like, that's the one nice thing you've done for me. She's like, oh, I've done other nice. It's like, what then? It's like, see, that's the one thing that you keep going back to that well of like, oh yeah, you did this thing for me, but it's like, it's kind of almost a little reminiscent of the first episode where she called Allison out because it's like every time you kept showing like the bruise from Neil, and it's like, yeah, it's messed up that he did that to you, but you keep using it as ammunition to fuel me to like be more on your side. So I think because for Patty, the thing is, she does like Allison. Like, Allison has become someone that she can rely on. It's one of the few people that she can have in her circle that she's able... But it's, like, so much baggage attached with it that it's complicated. Because, like, you want to have Allison around, but you just wish you didn't have all this complicated stuff with it. And it's just... She just kind of wants a clean slate. Because for Allison, it's like, oh, yeah, like, the moment I fake my death, this will all be behind me. And you could tell, like, that kind of hit Patty, because it's almost like, I haven't really thought this through of, like, what that would mean, but also, like, well, I think maybe it's her way of kind of compensating, too, because she doesn't want to seem like she's too heartbroken about the fact is that Allison will be leaving. It's like, yeah, like, headaches and all that, regardless, she still sticks around Allison because she does like Allison, and it's just, like, having someone... It just always feels like a one-sided relationship from Patty's perspective, where it feels like, oh, she gives and gives and gives, and Allison just kind of takes, you know? So, but like I said, Allison wanted to kind of compensate for that by trying to throw her a surprise party. Tries to get Kevin's help. It's like, right, this is the first time you could be useful to me ever. And he's like, hey, and once again, I love that she's just so casually blunt now. Also, we get, well, I'll circle back to Pete's girlfriend in a little bit, but... At the same time, Tammy actually went to Allison about Patty's birthday, because Allison's like, wait, how is it that Cindy, one of your clients, knows that your birthday's coming up, but me, despite everything we've been through? It's like, but I think it's almost probably like the argument could be like, well, we're friends created by a complicated situation. It's like, but to be fair, it's like, right, we've known each other for over 10 years, and I didn't know that tomorrow, like, she knows all these other things from the times that, you know, she's been observant, but it's like, right, I don't, as close as we are, and how close we've actually become, it's like, I don't know that tomorrow's your birthday, so... And Tammy wants to kind of get her something too, but it's like, Patty's like I don't want any surprises. I don't want anything. In fact, I hate surprises. So literally everyone, including Tammy, keeps telling Allison throwing Patty a surprise birthday party is a terrible, terrible, terrible idea, but she doesn't want to listen. It's also because, like, I want to do something nice for Patty before I go, but also I want to show Patty I do appreciate her. I do care about her, that she is my ride or die. Like, you know, so... It still comes off a little... It is that sad thing of, like, right, you want it to be altruistic, but it's also a little selfish on your part, because you kind of want to feel better about, like, right, your whole thing with Patty, so you want to make her... So it is kind of... It's kind of almost like a Kevin thing, where he wants to, like, hijack her birthday party and, help with his own plans with the whole, like, Pete thing, which, well, since I'm on the subject, Pete's girlfriend, which I love that she has kind of basically a SpongeBob laugh. She's like, hi. I think it's probably supposed to be, like, very, like... It's supposed to, I'm sure, like a super parody of, like, Fran Drescher to some extent. That's immediately, especially in like a sitcom realm. It's like, right, like Fran Drescher, like, has, like, a very, like, obviously she, like, hammed it up even more for the nanny. So it's like, it's like she, like, went above and beyond with the nanny to kind of lean into it even more. But it's like, yeah, I feel like that's probably, like, what they're kind of aiming and going for there. I immediately thought SpongeBob, but it wasn't until I sat here, I was like, oh, yeah, like, it's got to be, like, definitely, like, a nanny, like, Fran Drescher, like, vibe that they're trying to go for, so. But I love that, just like I said, that like, legitimately every time she laughs and everyone in the episode recoils, and then like it's one of the things that made me bust out laughing. You know, I'd say LOL, like I laughed out loud, not like you LOL. It's like, no, like I legitimately laughed out loud every time she laughed, just because everyone's like disgusted reaction, but it just legitimately made me like belly laugh, like ha 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 ha, like, you know, out loud. So I love that so much. And because Pete's the only one that's kind of like immune to that, immediately Kevin and Neil were just kind of like, ugh. So Kevin's plan is to try and hook him up with Diane, who is back. I was like, oh, snap. And it's actually kind of sad because it's like, oh, yeah, like Chuck tracked her down. I was like, that doesn't sound good. But it's like, okay, she's staying at like a motel or something. But she talks to Neil about it later. She's like, yeah, I actually moved back because like she had nothing. Like, that's the sad thing. It's like so much of her life was built around Chuck. She morphed a lot of who she is around Chuck. And now it's like, right, now that he kind of dragged me back, like, you know, and that's why it's just like, kind of plays into the Allison thing where it's like Allison's like, yeah, divorcing Kevin isn't going to be that easy. Even if I leave, he will find me. And it's like, yeah, because that's the, like, Chuck and Kevin are kind of that same ilk and vibe, you know? So I just thought that was just kind of fascinating. It was actually really heartbreaking to know, like, oh, she went all the way to South Carolina and still got dragged back here by Chuck, and even kind of went back to him because it's like, she kind of feels like, because she has no one and nothing else, so it's kind of like, yeah, you know, it's just like, at least I had this, so this is all I have, like, the kind of, it's kind of like it whittled her soul down, that it's like making her feel like, oh, Chuck is all I have, and it's like, almost like, oh, it's foolish of me to think I could get away. It was foolish of me to want to leave. It's like, despite him cheating on me and everything, it's like, she gonna have to, it's like, it's more of a like, oh, he's taking you back thing rather than it should be like a you're taking him back thing. That's the real tragedy of it all, I think. Either way, I did like that this is the episode where Tammy and Allison get to spend extended amount of time together. This is the most time that they've ever spent together. And so I love they're going to pick up the menthols, and it's like, wait, what? You know this is illegal. It's like, yeah, but you know, you're a cop, so you might be getting a discount. And the guy just gets in the back seat, and Tammy's like, what's going on here? And he's like, all right, $75. And she's like, oh, now you're making me part of this illegal activity? Because she's also on the phone with Patty talking about she has to get like the death certificate of Gertrude's from City Hall, but it needs to be done before the end of the month, before like it ends up getting, because the moment it's processed, there's nothing that can be done at that point. Because I'm sure at that point it's like it becomes like a digital record too, so it makes it official and harder to like, you can't scrub that from like once it's been digitized, so it might be like still only hard copy right now, so maybe that's kind of the point. So trying to do all that, getting Patty her it's like, oh cool, so where else are we going? Are we gonna like do some other illegal activity? And so she goes to Sam because she needs Sam's help. She wants to do a delivery that would take her to City Hall, and she also wants a cake. And then Tammy shows up, but Sam doesn't want to help Allison at all after everything going on between them. And Tammy immediately goes like, so how long have you and Sam been having an affair? And it's like, what? No. And she's like, okay, yes. And she's like, right. She's like, I get it. You're married to Kevin McRoberts. Like, I can't blame you. And Tammy's almost like, wait. I mean, Allison's all caught off guard because she's like, wait, huh? It's like, yeah, I get it. Like, Kevin, someone like him, like, I totally get, like, why you would want to cheat on him. You know, she's like, oh, and I'm sure you're going to think, like, oh, I should get a divorce. And she's like, no, I know it's not that easy. And for that moment, Allison was almost like, you get it. Like, everyone, because that's anyone's solution for her. It's like, oh, just get a divorce. It's like, it's not that simple because, I mean, Kevin being who he is, his personality, he is the life of the party. Like, most people would side with him, and she probably wouldn't win in the divorce. Like, she'd kind of walk away with probably nothing, especially which would be even more fucked up considering Kevin, like, this all started because she found out that Kevin took from, like, the savings that was supposed to be theirs, and he made some bad investments and stuff. So it's like, there's layers upon layers to that. And for Tammy to be out of anyone to understand that, she wasn't kind of expecting that. And Tammy kind of made a comparison to her partner Bram. It's like, yeah, there was a scumbag dealer that Bram kind of beat the shit out of, but it turns out the guy was clean, so I planted evidence and everyone knew it. And for her, it's like, I don't even know what he really said, like what came over me for me to kind of do that. So there was almost a kindred spirit there where it's like, right, we all like, I mean, whether it's Diane, whether it's Tammy, whether it's, I think even Patty to some extent, you know, when it came to Kevin and Neil, but also now Allison with Kevin, just how many men are in their lives and making it so that it's like, oh, like, we're kind of with these toxic guys who kind of are able to convince us, like, something in us is like, these guys, like, find that in us and they're able to kind of use it against us to get what they want. So that's also probably why she's not too heartbroken about Bram being dead, because it's like, yeah, you kind of like help. You're part of the reason why I compromise my values of who I am. And that's also why she was like, yeah, that's why everyone knows, like, don't, like, because it's like, oh, Patty's calling, you should probably talk to her. It's like, no, I'm a terrible liar. So, like, that's why everyone knows that I'm the one that planted evidence. So it's like, yeah. Which is so interesting. Like, I think maybe that's why it makes you such a good cop, because you are so honest. I mean, blunt. If anything else, so like she's always been like probably one of the most straightforward characters in the show. Like, she's like, I know what I want, and this is what I want. Like, when her and Patty were like starting up, it's like she kind of made that very clear from the beginning. She's very steadfast in where she stands when it comes to things. Because the entire a lot of the episode, Patty's hanging out with Neil, because normally they do the whole like, oh, let's go to this ice rink and hang out every year on her birthday. But obviously Neil, he only did it this episode because Kevin asked him to do it. So it was more of an obligation to Kevin. And maybe on some level he wanted things to kind of go back to being normal and pretending like they were, when in actuality they weren't. So she falls on this ice and he doesn't give her a hand. In fact, he's just spending the entire time drinking and once again, completely understandable. Like, he has so much stuff that rather than dealing with it, he's bottling it up. And obviously he's lashing out at Patty, which, you know, is like, right, he has a lot of like spice towards her. And so she ended up getting, like, apparently because he threw all the pushing of people and him breaking like the bottle on the rink, she had to get it up, and they ended up also banning them forever too. So that kind of blew up, because for her it's like that place had a special connection for her because it was connected to their mom. And it's like, cool, your drunkenness, like, yes, he was doing all this because he was just trying to buy time, but obviously because his anger and his sadness about, you know, everything related to Patty and Allison and him trying to kill Kevin, like, it became too much that he couldn't just keep it buried any longer. So I also love that Tammy invited all of Patty's clients to the party. So now it's awkward when she gets there, because it's like, cool, it's like the moment they walked in and it's a big celebration because everyone's there, immediately, and you get the title of the episode, Jesus, Allison. And it's just like, okay, maybe this was a bad idea, because literally everyone told her it was going to be one. And it's like Tammy also invited some cop buddies. So Allison, while Kevin and Neil are trying to get Pete and Diane together, Allison's just like, I love you just see her in the back, her just walking across the scene, just like getting all of Patty's clients to leave the house before they have a chance to talk to Tammy, which I love that, like, Cindy's like, wait, you're dating a cop? It's like, and she's also a woman, so can we focus on that being the thing that you have an issue with? And I thought that was so fascinating, where Cindy was like, how could you leave it? Oh, you're acting like you're high and mighty, like you're better than us. She's like, I'm not. It's like, exactly. So when you kind of move past this phase, how could you like dare, like, you're just going to leave us high and dry? And she's like, yeah, I'm not a part of this. It's illegal. It's like, yeah, but you're helping people. It's like, yeah, but she's also feeding your addictions. Obviously, it's not really even just helping you guys. You guys are addicts now. So it's like, it doesn't have the altruism that it once did for Patty, especially knowing like what Nick was doing with, you know, wasn't it his aunt's pills? So it's like, yeah, well, because Cindy's his mom, right? Or is it his aunt? No, it's his mom. So I'm curious. I don't know. I think it's interesting because I think that struck Patty to a core that I think for her it's like, oh, like Allison kind of brought like a whole bunch of craziness to my life. It's like, to be fair, your life was already kind of in a weird position even before granted, like things snowballed, sure, but I'm wondering for Patty, and did that kind of put things in perspective of like, yeah, like I am trying to move past all of that, especially because I am dating a cop now, but also like, right, it's everyone in this town trying to escape themselves. Like the town and people in it are actively telling you, don't act like you're better. Like you're from here, you're stuck here. Because Tammy even says like she's from here too, which I wouldn't have thought though. I don't know. I guess in my head I would have assumed she was a cop from somewhere else and that came here. Like I wonder, has she been in the town the entire time, or did she like leave at some point and eventually come back? Because it's like no matter what, either you grow up in this town and you stay there. I grew up in one of those towns where it's like probably like if you're not. It is one of those towns like you'll probably like stay there for the rest of your life type of situation. I mean, I guess it just depends on a person. So I kind of get that feeling vibe. I can understand that perspective, especially from Allison's point of view of just kind of being once again stuck in that town you're from, and you want something more. You want something else. You want to explore the world. You want to see more. And that's instead of just like this small town you spent so much of your life in. And then there was that conversation between Tammy and Allison where it's like, well, at least, we like each other. She's like, I don't like you. It's like, whoa, that's rude. It's like, whoa, I don't like you. And you don't like me? It's like, no, that's not the case. It's like, no, I get it. You don't like me and I don't like you. It's fine. Like, not everyone has to like each other, which is a very true thing. And Allison, I think, does kind of have that bit of her, like, I think we all kind of have that where it's like, right, when you find out someone doesn't like you, it's like, well, why? Like, I think that is kind of a thing where, like, a lot of people, I think myself included, we all kind of have this tendency to want everyone to like us for whatever reason. And so, that's what I thought was so interesting, because I thought for a moment, like, Tammy and Allison, like, had a moment earlier when she was like, yeah, I completely understand why you cheated on Kevin. Yeah, you were right. Like, Kevin McRoberts, like knowing the type of guy he is, like I know guys like him, once again, she was partnered up with a guy like him. So she completely understood. And in that moment for her to just be like, yeah, like me around Patty all the time, I'm a girlfriend. Like that makes a lot of sense. But you're not. Like, I don't know what you're trying to get from Patty, but maybe you should kind of take a step back, because it's kind of a thing of like, right, you're trying to fill some void to some extent, because Patty is kind of all Allison has. Outside of that, she doesn't really have anyone, because it's like, yeah, her and Diane aren't really that close necessarily. It's like, because Patty's her friend, once again, potentially more, but also it's just that's kind of her partner in crime. Like, she's never gotten this close to someone in a very long time, because like so many people she was close to, she's kind of drifted away from over the years. So, and this person that was always in the same room as you for these past decade plus, and now it's like this is the person you're closest to in the world currently, and to have Tammy kind of say that, like, oh, you need to take a step back, and I think it made Allison realize, like, right, I am dragging you deeper and deeper into this is my fault. You've asked multiple times, like, want to be done with me, but I keep dragging you in this. So her and Patty are out front on the steps, and she's like, right, you can stop it with the mint thing. I got you menthols and stuff like that, because what you're doing with the whole, like, that combined, like, what was it, like, the smoke she was smoking plus the mint is like, that's disgusting, so just, I'm giving you menthols. And Patty's like, right, it was a disaster from top to bottom, but no one's thrown her a surprise party before. No one's ever thrown her a party in general, so she's really appreciative of it. It's like, oh, so fine. So I have now done 2 things for you. And it's like Allison saying the line of, I just want to make sure that you miss Allison McRoberts. And in that moment, like, Patty and her both just kind of like fall silent, because it is the thing of Allison knows now. It's like, right, giving up on this life means giving up on like the one true friend she has. And I think the same thing is for Patty. Like, because Patty's not, I mean, because obviously, yes, this whole situation compromised her relationship with Neil, and then she lost touch with Kevin, and it's like, oh, we were friends, but now I've realized, like, I've kind of always known how much of an asshole and douche you are, but now I kind of fully do, so my eyes are fully open. So Allison is kind of the only friend she kind of has, so. And at the same time, there's the whole situation with Kevin and Neil trying to like, it's like, oh, like, hey, Pete, look at Diane over there, and she's like chewing down on like some wings, and it's just like, come over here so we can talk to you. It's like, wipe your face up first and then come over here. And it's like, yeah, and it's like, oh, like Diane, and she's just like saying everything she can, because she doesn't know what they've got planned. She's like, oh, I've got like this bunion on my foot or whatever. She's like, yeah, but I'm not gonna go to like some doctor or something, because she's like, I don't have foot insurance. It's like, oh, well, she likes football. I was like, that was more so Chuck. And it's like, well, I'm not sleeping with her. Diane's like, whoa, who said that you were sleeping with me? And it's just kind of like, she kind of got, that was like really rude of them being almost like, Kevin went as far as being like, God, like, you are, like, I kept being like, oh, there's nothing worse than Lorraine. Kevin's like, no, you are worse than Lorraine. So congratulations, Diane. Is like, sure, kick her while she's down. But her and, Neil having that moment later on was interesting. Like, he was hanging around Pete and Kevin, but I think even that, drinking with them isn't enough to kind of block out everything he's dealing with, because he's not dealing with it. So, once again, like, she was kind of beaten down by the fact that she went back to Chuck. This whole thing with Kevin and Pete, and like that kind of dealt like a big blow to her self-esteem. But I think, Neil found kind of like, right, we're both kind of wallowing our sorrows at the bottom of a bottle. So at the same time that happens, he couldn't steal the death certificate for her, but Sam shows up, is like, right, there's a guy who helped me get my liquor license. It wasn't really above board, so let this person help you. Like, I know you need money, but Allison, geez, this is something illegal you're doing. He's like, she's finally confessed it. I'm not trying to scam anyone. I'm in trouble. I need to make sure that Kevin can't find me. I'm faking my own death. And it's like, oh. I mean, it does present the opportunity for there to be a him and her now. Like, now it's like, right, it's kind of out in the open. I don't know if it necessarily alleviates the conversation they had at the end of last season that really kind of broke what they had. I mean, granted, she was dealing with a lot at the time, and him kind of wanting her to be better. It's like, right, why can't me just being me be enough? Yeah, I want a different life and everything. I want to kind of escape this life, but why do I have to be more? Why can't I just be me and not be good enough? But he's kind of like, oh, you can be like, so I wonder if some of that would still resurface. But now he's the only other person that's not fully, because he doesn't know everything, but he knows enough to be like, okay, so this is what you're mixed up in to some extent. And then we have Tammy looking through photos from the party. And then we get our little stinger at the end where she gets the Vermont footage. And lo and behold, who does she see? I'm assuming that's got to be like Patty. Obviously can't like fully tell, but it's like the way she's turning to look at Patty. I'm assuming Allison isn't on any of that footage. I'm assuming, because I only saw one person that looked like it was probably like with the darker hair looked like it was Patty. So it's like, oh, that's about to complicate things. It's like, cool. All that stuff, Cindy was saying to you, plus Allison potentially trying to leave and you getting dragged in the middle of this and the complicated relationship you have with your brother now, and now your girlfriend's going to, like, I think it's going to, like, the pieces were probably always there, but because she's your girlfriend, she was ignoring them. Now she kind of has no choice but to kind of see them for what they are. So she can probably, like, make an argument about, well, she's like, I was in the area for her. I mean, and granted, Kurt called her out last season because it's like, right, I don't know what you were really up to, and I kind of don't care, but he knew like she wasn't at some convention, and so whether he comes up to kind of add some spice to things because Tammy comes to question him about some of what he said last season, because she never really followed through on it necessarily. It seemed like she kind of was, but I think maybe she kind of like, it's like, I'm not going to like be super suspicious of my girlfriend. I mean, you kind of, did look up your girlfriend's records just to find out what her birthday was, and just go, yeah, because you got arrested when you were 16 for stealing pink panties, a pink thong, and she's like, yeah, that's why I learned my lesson. I never wore pink again. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see where all of that ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.